Our story starts with a boy who's busy daydreaming on a bus ride, but the calm mood is abruptly ended when a train smacks into the bus, immediately killing all the passengers. I guess Truck-kun took the day off. The boy wakes up as a child, and he's having a major identity crisis. He remembers his life as Haruto in Japan, but he also remembers his life here as a boy named Ryo. His thoughts are interrupted when a bunch of guys barge in with a sack and another bag full of food. They talk about how they just made some easy money with this transport job, and you can tell that's some cartel shit in the bag. The guys send Ryo away so they can eat, so he goes outside to wash himself. There he recalls how he ended up here after his mother was murdered in front of him, but his flashback is interrupted by this group of women. They ask him if he's seen a purple-haired girl anywhere, but he hasn't. One of the women, Celia, uses a magic search, and it turns out that Ryo has magic energy. She leaves to continue their search and gives Ryo a pouch of silver for his help. Ryo returns to the house. He gets jumped by the cartel and realizes that everyone else has been packed up. He's about to be killed as well, but luckily for him, this pink-haired girl shows up to give him the tutorial. After the tutorial, he is now a martial arts master and hits the assailant with the sickest arm bar you'll ever see. He then kills the guy and finds that the cartel sack had the purple-haired girl in it. He's trying to get her to safety when the women from before spot him, and this brat starts getting all up in his face like he didn't just save her. The night, there's more calm about it, but she also doesn't fully trust him, so she tells him to follow her to the castle so they can investigate properly. However, this Muppet, Charles, must not have heard the properly part, and he's just beating the hell out of Ryo. After the princess wakes up, they now realize that Ryo is innocent. Now that he's been proven innocent, Charles realizes that he's screwed up and leaves immediately, and Ryo wakes up later in a bed after Celia healed him. As a reward and apology, Ryo is requested for an audience with the king. Ryo has been allowed to study at the academy thanks to his saving the princess, but the bullying is going to be worse than British private school. Since Ryo can't read, he goes to Celia for extra tutoring sessions. Celia is only 12 years old, yet she skipped a bunch of grades and has already graduated high school, so she's quite the intellectual. She begins teaching Ryo how to write, but she is shocked when Ryo is able to do simple multiplication. However, Ryo was a university student in his past life, meaning he has already witnessed the horrors of integral calculus, so multiplication isn't much of a challenge. The class is having a training period when the instructor takes an interest in Ryo and tells him to spar for a little. Ryo also practiced the sword in his past life, so he's able to impress the instructor, but the other students are upset by this. The only thing worse than having a loser in your class is having a loser that is actually better than you. The exams roll around and this one guy is sweating, but Ryo is just taking the test like it's nothing, and he ends up getting the best score in the class alongside the princess. Lami over here can't accept that Ryo was first despite Celia's confirmation. If the word of the one who gave the exam is not enough to convince him, I don't know what will. Ryo is happy that he did so well, but now the bullying is going to go up a notch, maybe even Catholic school level. Though he thinks he'll be able to manage it since he has Celia for support. Celia agrees and says he can come to her anytime he has a problem, and she'll hold him to her chest to help. But Ryo is like, what chest? Some time has passed, and the students for the night competition are being selected, and Blondie still can't accept that he's worse than Ryo. Ryo spends most of his time with Celia, who puberty hasn't been generous to, while Ryo's over here with his 6-foot energy. Celia asks Ryo what he intends to do after he's graduated, and he says he intends to leave the country. He's going to go to the Yabumo region, which is where his parents are from. The day of the night competition arrives, and by chance Ryo's opponent is Charles. Charles got demoted because of his actions that day, and he plans to take out his frustrations on Ryo. But Ryo is no pushover, and Charles loses to him while he is only a student. Charles is about to blow a head gasket, but he is forced to leave, and Ryo is declared the winner. Later, Charles is drinking his problems away while this guy keeps sweet-talking him. And let's see, he's got blue hair, red eyes, and he looks like a vampire. This guy is definitely evil. Later, Celia is looking for Ryo, and she finds him while he's in the middle of receiving a confession letter. A while later, the students are having a magic class, and Blondie is absolutely beaming that he finally has one-up on Ryo since he can't use magic. Celia then asks him to demonstrate his magic capabilities if he is so well adept with it. The two perform a lighting spell, but is nothing special, and Celia tells them as much. She then proceeds to show them just how much there is left to learn, and they are all amazed. All except for Ryo, who, while he can't use regular magic, can still recreate spells of similar nature. After the class, Stuart tries to get close to Celia, but his advances are shot down. Since he has no game, he gets angry at Ryo, who has been getting confessions left and right since his victory in the tournament, but he isn't falling for the bait and just goes along with his rant. Later, the class is having a practical exam which will determine their final grade for the year. Blondie apparently bribed his way into some information about the course and the quickest way to get to the finish, and as expected, they give Rio the worst possible job. The group seems to be doing fine at first, and Mr. Suspicious over here is just watching them, but when they think they've reached the goal, they find themselves at the edge of a cliff. Blondie now realizes that his map was a scam. See, this is why you don't buy maps in a dark alleyway. They start panicking about what to do, but then things get worse and they are attacked by a group of orcs. Then Stuart gets struck in the leg, and in true Wuss fashion, he starts wailing to everyone that it hurts. He ends up bumping into the princess and she was flying off the cliff. Rio jumps out to save her and pushes her back to safety while he falls to the forest below. The group manages to barely defeat the orcs, and Stuart starts trying to blame Rio for the princess's fall. But now isn't the time to look for a culprit. They try to leave the forest, but they are once again attacked, and this time by a minotaur. To put it simply, their goose is cooked. Their magic is ineffective and their fighters have been whooped. Princess Flora is trying to revive one of her classmates when she's about to get put in a body bag. But Rio comes back just in time to save her. Even Rio doesn't know why he came back to save